what's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Okay, let's get to this week's movie review. Speaking of Hollywood having no more ideas and decades-old IPs that don't need sequels, we will be taking a look at Gladiator II. Here's your spoiler.
We already know what you're going to think of it.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
I'm just saying, it's been a trend. You know, we got an Alien movie. We got a Beetlejuice movie. What's the other one that we got after many years? There's been tons of these.
Ghostbusters.
Oh, they've been doing the Ghostbusters, trying to bring all this shit back. Yes, Gladiator II, a sequel to Gladiator that came out in 2000.
Nostalgia movies.
24 years later, Ridley Scott returns.
A little different. I mean, I do agree that it's a legacy sequel, but you compared it to movies that came out in the 80s. This is a 2000 movie.
That's true.
Well, that's just like Independence Day, the new one that they
it's not as old as...
it's old.
It's old.
It's not as...
But not as old. But that...
Pulp Fiction 2 is coming out.
Oh, my God. Don't do that. Please don't do that. On the Rotten Tomatoes... Forrest Bump.
You're going to have his kid with a coke addiction.
Feige knows all the words for cocaine. You can't use those. The first Gladiator on Rotten Tomatoes...
La Bamba 2.
Don't do that. Breakin' 3? What happened to Breakin'?
Dirty Dancing. They already did a Dirty Dancing 2.
Top Gun? They pulled the Top Gun Maverick?
Yes.
Rotten Tomatoes tells us this movie, 71% tomato meter, 84% audience.
That's not too bad.
The first one, 80% critic rating, 87% audience. Box office wide, here's the thing. This Gladiator had a battle even before it got to the theaters. It had a box office bout because Wicked came out the same weekend. And some people were trying to do a thing called Glicked. It just doesn't work. It's just not as organic. Because, what do you call it? Wicked-ator? Glicked? No. Opening weekend, the first movie opened to $37 million, went on to make $465 million. Gladiator 2 opens $55 million. Gladiator 2 versus Wicked box office. Wicked opened to $112 million.
Oh, shit.
Gladiator's already lost. Round one.
Well, to be expected.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about Wicked, and I almost was going to go see it. I might go see it.
People are actually really hyped about that movie. And
I heard it's pretty good. Hey,
what's OW mean?
Opening weekend.
Oh.
Glicked, huh?
Glicked is dumb. It didn't stick.
So Wicked made $112 million?
Yeah.
And the Gladiator made, 37?
55.
Oh, 55.
So
But still,
it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's respectable.
The budget of this movie is $250 million. Now, it had come out overseas a week earlier. It's currently made $165 million internationally. Worldwide, it's sitting at $220 million.
So it almost made its budget back.
It's almost made its budget back. It did really good overseas a week before.
Oh, interesting.
Now, just to put into perspective what this movie was going up against, the first movie, for you guys who don't remember, nominated for 12 Academy Awards, wins 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, and Best Costume. That's kind of what the legacy of that movie is, and maybe this thing was trying to live up to.
Well, listen, it might get some of those because not Best Picture, but I think costume design is great.
And maybe visual effects. Ridley Scott returning.
Gladiator, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Just because you made the point about Gladiator, the original Gladiator is one of the greatest movies ever. And brought back the what was thought to be dead, which was these period pieces.
The sword and sandal.
Correct. Yeah. Which ended up creating a lot of shitty movies, but it was an all-time movie at the time. All-time movie.
I like Clash of the Titans.
I mean, there was absolutely like a trend of Gladiator shit that came out because of that, and a
sword and sandal and period type
300. You know,
and
there's a whole list of movies.
I mean, and it's still happening. Like Gladiator 2. Before that, Peacock had that show, Those About to Die. It's based off the same book Gladiator was based off of. Trying to it's always going to be good.
Ridley Scott tried to copy his own thing by releasing movies like Robin Hood, Kingdom of Heaven,
right?
Which Exodus, Gods and Kings. I mean, Napoleon. He was doing a bunch of these after Gladiator.
He just he just did that Napoleon movie. It's on Apple TV Plus. I heard the battle scenes are good, but there's like a 3-hour cut. I might have to watch that.
It's not great. It's about as good as this movie.
Okay. So Ridley Scott returning to direct. He's 86 years old.
Holy crap.
So he was already in his 60s when he made the first movie. Jesus Christ. He has said on record, I'm not quitting. He's got like 4 or 5. He wants to do Gladiator 3. He's got a bunch of movies planned.
He's 86 years old?
Yeah, he said he's going to keep working until he dies.
Jesus Christ.
This one written by David Scarpa, Peter Craig, starring Paul Mescal as Lucius, or Han, as he's known in the movie. You got Denzel Washington as Macrinus, Pedro Pascal as General Acacius, Connie Nielsen returning as Lucilla, Joe Quinn, Emperor Gaeta, and Fred Hetchinger playing Emperor Caracalla. Here you have half of the Fantastic Four in this movie. Reed Richards and Johnny Storm. Derek Jacobi also returning as Senator Gracchus. Derek Jacobi also was an old man with white hair in that movie 24 years ago.
He looks exactly
the same.
What is he, 80-something
He's
too?
got to be in his 80s. And a couple of other people you can look it up. That's
Jesus Christ.
But yeah.
Connie Nielsen's still looking okay.
Connie Nielsen actually looked okay. Again, 24 years later, she was okay in the first one. She looked pretty good. Denzel is 69 also. Playing Macrinus. Anthony.
Yep.
What happens in Gladiator 2?
Gladiator 2 is set, I think, 16 years after the first one.
Correct.
Somewhere around there. And the dream that Maximus had about the Republic returning is not there. Rome is being ruled by 2 twins who are diabolical. And Rome is conquesting all these different places and wanting to just expand and expand. And one of the places they conquest is in North Africa and has a man played by Paul Mescal, whose name in this movie is, what's his name?
Hanno, but he's Lucius.
Hanno.
But they call him Hanno.
But he's Lucius, which I don't know if that was supposed to be known right away or not.
It was in the trailer.
Okay, fine. He's Lucius, Maximus's son, Connie Nielsen's son, and he's been living away from Rome, and he gets wrapped up into becoming a gladiator because of his country being captured by the Romans. And he has to fight his way through the ranks similar to his dad, and along the way finds a potential greater purpose to his life rather than what he had originally envisioned. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess Maximus didn't do shit when he died and tried to change things. Nothing changed.
Well, you can't change things if you're dead.
That's true. All right. Well, Anthony, we just talked about the first one being just an all-time great movie.
Yep.
A lot to live up to. How did you feel the end of this movie?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. We'll get into them as we go along here. How did I feel after the movie? I feel the same way. If you listen to plug for Patreon, if you listen to my instant reaction, my thoughts haven't really changed much since then. Mm-hmm. And I ultimately feel like this movie is a bit unnecessary. Ridley Scott, I think, he always crafts really beautiful things, really beautiful looking movies for the most part. This movie has some real shitty CGI, but we'll get into that later. But if he doesn't have, I feel like he doesn't always pick the best scripts. And this movie has a script that I think needs a lot of work. There's a lot of coincidences and things moving very quickly to get to pieces in the movie that ultimately don't make any sense. So, for example, Lucius Hanno purely gets to Rome by luck. He's not there in his own volition.
Oh, yeah.
So this whole thing of him honoring his dad and bringing back the Republic, which becomes a story later on, wasn't even a motivation of his.
No,
and it's just serendipitous that he's even there. So that leads to the part of this movie that a lot of it is almost beat for beat with the original Gladiator. And while there are times with the music and when he puts on Maximus's armor where I feel things, it ultimately just reminds you of a better movie. So overall, I found the movie to be a little bit of a mess in terms of plot and just not as good as the first one. And it invites that comparison because of how much it mimics the first one. Yeah. And we can get into some of the details here in a little bit of why it's not as good. But ultimately, Paul Mescal is not Russell Crowe. The fight scenes are pretty solid, but it doesn't have the flow and the emotion that I had got in the first one. And a lot of the movie is really this Denzel plot, which is an interesting plot. And actually, probably, I read this online, but the Denzel plot probably should have been what the main movie focused on. Yeah. Which is this slave that finds a way to manipulate himself into power in Rome. Yeah. But instead, they're focusing on Paul Mescal's character because they're going for the vibes and the memes. And his story is just not as interesting. So, yeah, ultimately, it's not as good a movie. And also, as a side note, Denzel is still just acting like Denzel, which also takes me out of the movie. It's just, you're going,
that's great.
At the end, I'm going, is this Training Day? Is he fighting? What is this happening right now? But yeah, I think it's not a bad movie, but ultimately I found it to be not even close to the level of the first one. So ultimately a little bit disappointing in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, the movie literally,
I didn't know what to expect, but yeah,
it literally makes you think of the first movie. Like, it forces you, it shows you. And I'm like, wait,
it shows you scenes from the first. It starts with scenes from the first movie.
So it wants that. Ruggs, how'd this hit you at the end of it?
This movie is like a really fancy Mercedes, like with like driving on all spare tires. So
it's pretty good. I like that.
It's like you can't really do much with it. You know, you can't really go above 50 miles an hour in this thing, or the fucking wheels are gonna fall off. It's already hampered by the fact that it's a remake. It doesn't have Russell Crowe in it, so Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. Right now, that you could say that Denzel brings that kind of caliber performance to this movie, but he's not featured enough to really shine. Yeah. So he's kind of like he's kind of like the other lead, but he's not, because there's too many other things packing in this movie. Yep. And there's too many other co-leads. It doesn't have the simplicity and the elegance of the first movie, where you have the setup in the first few minutes of the movie. Yep. You have Marcus Aurelius saying that he wants fucking Maximus to be the guy, and then the son, being a jealous prick, fucking condemns him, and then he sneaks his way back into Rome through the Colosseum, like by serendipity, and then uses it to fucking fuck with this guy and get his revenge. And it's simple.
It's a great, simple story. Yeah.
It's a simple story. Yeah. And it's like, and it's easy to kind of like cheer because Russell Crowe just brings this like aura. So this guy, Paul Mescal, he's okay. He's trying, but he doesn't really have the presence, and he doesn't even have the material that Russell Crowe had. You have kind of like these bad guys. You have these twins that are bad guys. You have Reed Richards is the bad guy.
But he's not the bad guy, but he is a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
And then Denzel is not a bad guy, but then he is a bad guy.
And he's a bad guy. Yeah, there's a lot of bad guys here. And there's a lot of things that are going on. And it doesn't really, you could tell, okay, first of all, they cut a lot of shit out of this movie.
You think so?
So, yeah. So I think that's another thing that Ridley Scott, it's his own folly, is he overshoots. So he shot a 4-hour movie. They cut they had this like love interest that they cut out.
Oh.
And this girl that they cast. I think it was the girl from like, I might be wrong about this, but it might be the girl from Moon Knight.
Yes. I did hear about that.
And maybe they just look alike, but yeah.
Yeah.
But she was in this movie. They cut her out. They don't. So like a lot of things are just not working here. So I think that he's tried to hang his hat on the arena stuff, which was fine and interesting and gory. but I don't think that's enough to make it a great film. It's just an okay film. It's just okay. Like if you compare it to the first one, it's not even close, right?
Yeah.
So, but it does have, but to give credit where credit is due, and Ridley Scott is the only guy that really does this as good as he does it. If you watch Napoleon, you watch any of his fucking movies, you watch Kingdom of Heaven, you watch any of these movies, the attention to detail to all of the fucking architecture, the clothing, the fucking machinery, the weapons, how they use the weapons. They even show you how they use the fucking, how they're loading the shit and they're fucking cracking everything up.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And you can kind of be like, oh, I can imagine how this warfare happens and how they use the shields and all that other stuff. It's great. So he does give you something. He does bring some of that to the table. It just, he overshoots these movies and he hacks them to bits. And then the bits that you're left with that make the movie are not what you really want. They could have made this a much more elegant film if Denzel Washington's character knew the whole time that he was Maximus's son, like he had figured it out early on and wanted to use him as a pawn. To kind of take over. But it feels like all of a sudden the fact that he wants to take over like the emperor, like I can see him rising in the ranks and being rich, but for him to like take over Rome, that's a real big grab.
Yeah, he's just
there was no way that was going to happen.
He's just like a businessman.
So I don't even know how they forced that. They forced that character way out. So into a ground where they didn't establish enough for him to do that. It was quite a turn at the end when he suddenly is killing everyone or helping everyone kill everybody else all of a sudden. Right.
Yeah,
so,
it's a very quick turn.
He kind of, Denzel got a little bit shafted. He could have had a little bit of better setup.
I really loved that character, and I was interested. And like you said, Anthony, I would have loved more, and maybe that would have been the play, is that he's the point of view, and you see him manipulating everybody. But to your point, Ridley Scott, his wide shots are always gorgeous, right? Whenever he does like a period piece and you see all the buildings and the people and it's this faraway shot, it's always fucking amazing.
His sense of scale and making you feel like you were there is bar none. I mean, he's bar none. He's one of the best at it.
And you have some of that in this movie. And my opening thoughts say it's really similar to you guys. I thought I was entertained. It's thrilling at times, but the movie, it's good. It's just okay.
I think that the reason why the first Gladiator worked is because it was so simple.
Yes.
And he couldn't really, I mean, yes, you tell me that this movie had a lot of problems, but at its core, the story is very simple, right? It's a guy who gets revenge through the
story.
Yeah.
And it always comes down to story. And I think you guys are right. The script kind of fails everybody here. Doesn't.
And you didn't even get anything about Gaeta and Caracalla. Like you.
Why are they tyrants? Why does everybody hate them?
They didn't really have enough time to really even though there was a lot of tell me and not showing me in
this is what I was afraid of, is that there was going to be too much shit happening, and there was fucking too much shit happening.
Too much.
And it becomes all style over substance. Like the meat isn't there. The magic that first movie there at the head isn't there.
Yeah, when they get to the part where like they're filling up the Coliseum with sharks and water.
Yeah.
Like that's like a big thing. They just kind of like gloss over it.
So you're just there and they're already in the boat.
Well, and also the sharks look awful.
Yes. But to your point about like showing some of the details, I appreciated in that opening battle scene where Acacius comes to Namibia.
Yeah.
With the boats and they're crashing in.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. That was fucking wild because first of all, they're launching fucking fireballs at these boats. And if you're down on the bottom, there's like two rows of oars. You have no idea that you're about to be set on fire.
That attention to detail where he shows you the guys rowing the boats and you get a sense of, oh, fuck, those guys are just helpless underneath there.
Can you imagine being down there? You have no idea what's coming at you and you could be exploded. And then I love the drawbridges built into the boats that come down to scale the wall. I was like, that shit is fucking dope. But plot beats are exactly the same.
I mean, you start that scene is great, but then when his wife gets killed or his girl, it's right away. I mean, it's just so on the nose to what happens in the first one that you're immediately going, oh fuck, this is the first one.
It's very predictable. You know, he's gonna get taken as a slave, become a gladiator, and have to fucking fight his way into the Colosseum. But he's got no real agency.
Let me say real quick the agency is huge. I agree with both of you guys. Just to elaborate a little bit more on that point, the plot is almost beat for beat the same, other than the Denzel storyline.
Right.
So you have that, but then the other thing, and Ruggs mentioned this, I was going to say this as well, is Paul Mescal obviously doesn't compare to Russell Crowe, and then the twins do not compare to how fucking diabolical Joaquin Phoenix is as Commodus.
Yes. No.
So you've got this, and then
because you know about him, you don't know about these guys at all.
Yes, everybody's underdeveloped here.
In the first one, Commodus suffocates his dad.
He kills his dad. He wants to fuck his sister.
Well, also burns alive.
It wants to kill Lucius.
Yeah.
Also burns alive Maximus's kid and wife.
Oh yeah, and hangs them and burns them
and burns them alive.
Yeah.
So this whole movie, that's in terms of simplicity, you just want to see them two clash. Whereas this movie, you don't know. First of all, Paul Mescal's character Hanno doesn't want to be there. 3/4 of the way of the film decides he wants to be there and honor his dad. The other part of it, that you have the twins who they're funny, but they're not evil.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, they might be evil, but we don't know.
Apparently.
And then you have the turn where all of a sudden it's from Hanno and Pedro Pascal to Hanno and the twins to then Hanno and Denzel. It's just too many flips in the movie. And then you have Pedro Pascal's character, who's this nuanced character who you don't really know what to feel for because you don't spend enough time with him either. You just know he's a good guy doing his job.
But
so there's just too many things.
Well, and then on top of that, he is a general who's carrying out, he just wants to go home, and they're like, no, you're going to go to India, kill more people. He's not on board. He's actually wants to get rid of the emperors, but now Paul Mescal's going after the guy that his mom is married to that killed his wife. Like, it's just too fucking convoluted.
Yeah, it's convoluted.
And so Acacius was
had
a good guy.
Storyline in the first one where the Senate was going to overthrow.
Yes.
But in this one, they do it again, but it's not handled as well.
So now Lucilla and Acacius are going to overthrow, but then they get ratted out, and Macrinus.
And then I think Bilotti brought this up,
confusing.
but then why does everyone start following Hanno all of a sudden? And
he doesn't do anything to really inspire.
He doesn't do anything to inspire, and then he's all of a sudden he wants to own that he's Lucius, and then the army is going to come and follow him. They didn't do the work to make that you feel that.
I feel like it's there. It's there, but
it's there.
No, it's there because he's honorable in the arena, and he does things that are honorable, and he takes a shot. You know, he kind of like is brazen about. That he's against the emperors. He's against the general. He's openly against not listening to their commands and doing what the fuck he wants.
He refuses to kill Acacius at that moment.
He's just not Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sell it enough.
Russell Crowe didn't even have that many lines. He did all that just with his fucking face, most of the acting.
Right.
It was amazing. Now,
but it's also how you edit it together and to create that moment. Yeah. And I think that there is something, it's just the editing of how it's edited together. It doesn't really culminate in you wanting to see him the same way you see Maximus.
I never got the sense that Lucius knew who he was. Because he was like 10, maybe 12 when his mom sent him. Like, you'd remember, you are the direct line to the throne, and you're hiding, and you're mad at her, because she sent you away. But it never seemed like he actually knew who he was. I felt like he didn't know who he was.
I think that having him kind of completely disregard Rome and let's say, fuck Rome, I don't want to be part of that. That's one way of doing it. But it would be even better if he's like, he wanted to be the emperor the whole time, and he just figuring out a way in, you know.
He just doesn't have the agency. I don't know that he needed to want to be the emperor. I think they should have made
wanted to save Rome. He
didn't, and then he didn't have that. And then his turn, where initially he meets his mom again, and he pretends like he doesn't know who she is, and then for whatever reason, he gets the chance to kill his the Acacius,
right?
And then doesn't, and then that flips him to now want to save Rome. It's just. I felt like it was just too quick. Everything just felt they were trying to rush through a lot of story beats that could have been more fleshed out.
Now,
and they didn't have enough time.
What if Ridley Scott releases a 4-hour version?
But there is a longer director's cut of Gladiator that has like 20 minutes, I think, more. But
I think time would help the movie, but again, it's so on the nose with a lot of the stuff that they're doing than in the first one.
Yeah,
and you just don't have as good an actor acting in terms of the villain and the hero, unless you're counting Denzel. Denzel's really good in it, but Denzel also just takes me out of it because he's acting like Denzel.
I thought he'd be more jarring. I was okay. After a while, I kind of settled into him just talking like an American amongst all these British accents. It is strange, but it wasn't too jarring. But I like your idea of him being a slave, and then he becomes a businessman, and he discovers who Lucius is, and then
that's probably the more interesting.
Oh my god,
story,
that would have been great because
it's not called Gladiator. Earlier on that you will be my instrument to take down Rome.
Yeah, he promises his head, Acacius' head.
Yeah. You know what else is jarring besides the damn sharks? The initial fight scene with the fucking baboons.
Yeah, let's talk about the baboons. The battle scene was crazy.
That.
First of all, I was looking at those things. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I guess it was a baboon. It was a crazy looking thing, and it was not the best CGI. He does bite one and then kill one.
It was just he wanted, so Ridley Scott, when the making of the first one, in the scene with the tigers, he wanted actually them to ride in on rhinos and fight rhinos.
So
in the first
he gets
one
to do that.
He was debating doing an elevated type of Rome where it's this alternate reality where monsters and they fought these things exist. I mean, they did fight them, but yeah, the scene, the rhino actually in this one is the best looking in my opinion of these CGI monster animals, because the baboons look bad and the sharks are all time worst. I mean, those are horrible looking.
Yeah, the rhino didn't look bad, and that was kind of a fun scene.
I mean, the sharks were awful.
So I know, like, historically, they may have had naval battles, and there may have been alligators, but I don't think they ever had sharks.
You could have never put sharks
I don't know how they would get the sharks there. But alligators, you could, because they can survive outside of water for a little bit.
They used to use crocodiles, hippos.
Well,
they used rhinoceroses. They did monkeys. They used to use monkeys.
Hippos people riding the rhinos.
I don't know, but they used bears and elephants and lions.
I did love that move in the naval battle where he's like turning, and then he pulls all the oars and breaks all their oars, and then turns around and
the battles in the scene those are good. But I enjoyed all of those.
But all the stuff, like you said, just kind of happened. There was no build up, and things were just kept happening.
My main, I'm going to harp on it, but I think the main thing for me is the fact that Hanno, for 3/4 of the movie, is just there.
And then when he puts
he finally has the motivation at the end, but for most of the movie, he's just the guy that ended up there by accident.
Yeah, he didn't want to be there. It was just by chance that Macrinus found him.
There is no, I mean, and his main conflict was with Pedro Pascal, but that character you learn right away is supposed to be a good guy, and you shouldn't actually want to see them fight. So there's no momentum. There's no momentum towards anything.
Well, the thing is, it's like Russell Crowe. Once he became a gladiator, he's like, look, I'm going to use this.
Right.
He first wanted to die, but then he found that the men rallied behind him. He's like, oh, I can do something now. I could probably I could survive and see if I can get my freedom. And then he wanted revenge. So he had a whole arc that he was chasing. And they tried to do the same thing here, but it just didn't do it as well because there was so many things pulling in all different directions that it didn't really hit.
Well, I love in Russell Crowe that what the beat there is, he uses the gladiator portion, the gladiator games, to get the people on his side. Right. So then once he reveals himself to Commodus, which is an awesome scene where he tells him his name and all that, Commodus wants to fucking kill him on the spot, but can't because the people are behind him. So he has the people and he can't kill him like that. Otherwise he's going to lose the people.
And that's the advice.
That's a great thing.
That's the advice he gets, right? Win the crowd, not the battle.
Right.
You'll win the battle.
But here, they tried to do the same thing, but it's just not. It just doesn't feel the same.
It did not. It did not have that same magic. So there's a little bit of poetry at the end when what's his name, Lucius and Macrinus finally do battle each other.
Which one's Macrinus? Is that Denzel?
Denzel. First of all, Paul Mescal's fighting a fucking 69-year-old man, so you're like, this shouldn't take long. But kind of a problem for Lucius as he gets beat and almost gets killed. But then Maximus's armor protects him right under the water, and he hears his mom's voice, and then he just fucking shanks Macrinus. And in this one, does he finally achieve what Maximus wanted? Because the two armies are there, and he's like, "Can't we all be friends? Let's give Rome back to the people." And they let him go back.
The one thing I thought of as that was happening was, first off, it's well shot with all the armies there.
Yeah.
The one thing I thought of as he's making the speeches, can the guys about 120 meters away hear what he's saying?
No, because he's barely whispering this shit. There's 5,000 people out there, dude.
They're on each side of a valley.
Yes, yeah.
And he's in the middle.
There's easily like 11,000 people around him. They can't hear you in the back. Get that megaphone. I don't know what you're doing. But this is also when they pull clips from the first Gladiator, and you see Russell Crowe, and you see him walk through the fields, and tries to tug at your heartstring. I did like when that moment where he enters the arena in Rome, and he bends down, he picks up the dirt.
I thought that was cool.
And Lucilla sees that, and she's like, "Oh, like she doesn't recognize."
I also liked when he put on the armor. It's cheesy and it's cheap.
Yeah.
But I was sitting next to someone, and one of the guys that I don't know, there was just another dude. I could hear him going, "Let's fucking go!" when he puts on the armor. It's cheap as fuck. Yeah. I mean, he does it, but you know.
But yeah,
they do. That's the problem though with the movie too, is they purposely weave in the other plot so much that inevitably now you've created a scenario where you're going to keep thinking about the first movie and comparing it to it, and it's already inherent that you're going to compare it to the first movie. But this movie, with its editing, does itself no favors by putting scenes in the fucking movie from the first one.
Remember how good this movie was? Yeah. And it doesn't.
Remember how good it was 24 years ago?
The best we got now.
Now, okay, we've said all this, but in the theater, were you having fun?
Were you entertained, as he would ask?
Yes, I had fun.
You know what? I was entertained at the time, and it was thrilling at times with the big spectacle battles.
He does spectacle like no other.
Yeah.
I was entertained as well, but I did feel like I just felt the whole time that the casting choice of Paul Mescal was like kind of a head scratcher. And I also just didn't like, I was very perplexed about these four bad guys that they had.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that none of them actually worked.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have the five main characters that you're hanging your entire fucking movie on don't work.
Because they do not develop any of them. It's just big, bare bones substance.
But like, if you just disregard that and you're on the ride, sure, it's fun. It's not like a bad way to spend 2 hours at all.
It's not, but it's not as memorable as the first one.
On the fun side, I mean, the reason why I think it works in that sense is you don't see a lot of Hollywood movies that look like this anymore.
Right.
No.
Right.
So when it's done like this and it's done right, for the most part, other than the CGI animals,
right?
You know, the Marvel movies are supposed to be big in scale, but none of them feel like this. You know, a lot of the DC, you know, any of the superhero stuff, those are supposed to be big, spectacular movies, and they don't ever feel as epic as what Ridley Scott.
Yeah, when they're running through the town and they're rioting and look,
the riot scenes are crazy.
Even when the army's marching towards at the end, you're going, "Oh fuck, there's gonna be a huge." I was literally going, "This is Game of Thrones on the screen right now."
Yeah, were we going to see these two giant armies actually battle? It would have been crazy. But it's like old school, like Ben-Hur shit that he can still pull off.
He pulls it off like no one else.
And it always looks beautiful.
The visuals, if you just take the frames and you just look at like what he's done, the attention to detail, it's pretty amazing.
So can we talk about the original idea for Gladiator II? Who knows about this? I was reading this article.
Was it the one with the where we follow Maximus in the afterlife and he fights the gods?
Yes,
yeah,
written by Nick Cave of all people. Very strange, and you have like Hephaestus and all these gods, and then
that would have been terrible.
And then he does pop out.
I'd rather take this movie than that.
He gets popped out into the real world, and Lucius was supposed to be another bad guy and actually be Commodus's nephew, and not related to him.
Do you have a synopsis or what that second one? I saw that too, and it's one of the most infamous one of the infamous movies that never have been made because it's so wild.
It's kind of long. I'm going to try to summarize. So It says here, Nick Cave's Gladiator II screenplay opens with Maximus waking up in the afterlife. This isn't Elysium he dreamt of, but an endless rain-sodden netherworld where wretched refugees huddle on the shores of a black ocean. So he gets the help of a ghostly guide, Mordecai. He goes to a ruined temple. He meets Jupiter, Mars, 5 other Roman deities. Hephaestus has betrayed them. And then at some point, once he tracks down Hephaestus, he's zapped back into the real world a decade or two after his death. He's human again. He travels to Rome in search of his son, Marius. And apparently Marius was alive in this, even though he was crucified and burnt in the first movie. Then Lucius is Commodus' nephew. Lucius is grown up and as evil as Commodus. And they go back to the Colosseum, and there is. So the one thing they did keep was there was a mock naval battle in the Colosseum in that version, but that one it was flooded and stocked with alligators. So that kind of carried over. There's a Christian resistance army Maximus has to fight. Oh, and Juba is in it. Jimon Hansu's character still around.
So,
yeah, it's great.
I disagree with Ruggs.
Yeah.
It would have been horrible.
Yeah,
I wish it would have been made because at least they wouldn't have frame for frame copied the first movie.
Oh, and then here's the big thing. After Maximus and Juba have been training, Nick Cave has Maximus going into battle through the centuries.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Through the Crusades, the World Wars, Vietnam, the Pentagon, kind of like they did in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And Maximus'
wild plot.
Spirit lives through time or something. But you know what? That may have been more interesting than just doing Gladiator over again, like you just said.
Was Ridley Scott on board to do that, right? Wasn't he?
At a certain point, he was down with this, but then I think some of it was a little too outrageous.
Threw out there.
Yeah.
That's the hardest left turn you can take ever out of that first movie.
So this article says Crow
mythological.
He says, Russell Crowe didn't like it also. He was not going to like it. He didn't like barely like the first movie. But he was writing it thinking that it was never going to get made, so they just went nuts with it.
Got it.
But a little bit of that, I guess the flooded Coliseum made it in. A little bit of that may have helped.
Yeah. I would have liked to see, the natural thing is to take Lucius. I mean, he's a character that you can use. Doesn't have to be Maximus's kid. It could just be Lucius escaping Rome because his mom sends him away to protect him or whatever.
Maybe people coming after him. He's got to keep him running.
Yes. So but he wants to do what Maximus did. He grew up loving Maximus and he wants to save his mom. And you could show how Rome is in deterioration. You could show it. And then he kind of comes in as the savior and maybe he does something in the arena, but he doesn't have to become do the exact same story beat for beat where he becomes a slave.
He should want to save Rome.
Maybe he uses that his plan is to kind of get the people on his side, but he has a plan.
And that's entirely missing from this until the third act for some reason.
Yeah,
you don't get that sense that he wants to save Rome.
I don't think that. Yeah, I just think that having him be this reluctant hero that doesn't want to do it, it doesn't make sense. If you were a guy that you grew up in Rome and that you were the next in line to be emperor and you're just fuck it, I'm just going to hide out and not do anything.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
While other people fucking ruin the place that I grew up with. I don't know. I just think it's stupid.
And then, how does that as the audience make you want to root for this guy?
Yeah. He hates Rome. I understand it's the way it's cool to hate Rome because Rome sucks. So it's, whatever, the history of it. But his character wouldn't hate Rome. He would probably, he probably would want to rescue it. That wouldn't he want to do? I would figure that.
He would hate what Rome became, but probably also want to figure out how to get there.
Wouldn't everyone know about Maximus and the story and the legacy?
His grandfather's legacy.
Yeah. But he never acted like he was the guy, ever.
I also even when we talked about it last week and I was super confused, I think it's kind of ham-fisted that he's even Maximus's son.
Yeah, it's a little forced. There's a lot of.
He doesn't have to be.
No, he didn't have to be. He could have been just another gladiator who wanted to pick up.
I know it's implied that Maximus and Lucilla had a thing, but the first movies, a lot of that plot revolves around his love for his son and his wife.
Right. So now you're
going to take this guy who was this for all intents and purposes as a Roman, an honorable man, and say, well, he also was having an affair.
Come on, it's ancient Rome. Everybody's fucking everybody.
I know, but it's just.
But like you could have still had the same beat because he still idolized Maximus.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't have to be his dad.
No.
It's just one of those things that they put in there because it's contrived, I guess.
And shoehorned.
It's shoehorned.
It's very shoehorned. All right, let's give me final thoughts there, Anthony. Give me a number.
Yeah, I mean, I shit on this movie the whole time. That said, I don't think it's a shitty movie. I was entertained by a lot of it. I think it's just ultimately, again, just an unnecessary movie that is not very well thought out in terms of its pacing and the way it's edited, and very rushed in terms of the beats that happen in the movie. But the scale looks great. The action looks great. There are Denzel, even though for me, he still just acts like Denzel, is really good in the movie. I laughed at times with the twins. I thought the fights were fun. I got the feels in certain moments when they play the old music and things like that. But ultimately, it's nowhere near as good as the first one. And that's what it's going to be inevitably compared to. So I'm going to rate it I was thinking I was going to go as low as 5.5, but I'm going to go 6 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
It's entertaining, but it's not necessary. And I hope they don't make a third. Jesus Christ.
He's talking about it, and he shouldn't have made a second one. Ruggs, what about you?
After this film was over, there was a round of applause in my theater.
Really?
We had it too.
Really?
Yeah. So
Oh, interesting.
So it definitely, for those people who went to go see it, they had no problems with it. They were. We're all film critics, and we're all like critical of Ridley Scott. We're critical of everything, so we're looking at it probably a lot more than the standard person who's going in there. Now, the OG Gladiator, it's like a 9.5, right?
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Yeah. So I want to knock this down about 3 steps and probably go with a 6.5. I could see it as a 7 because people did clap at the end of it, but it's nowhere near the same heights as the first one.
Yeah, while this movie is unnecessary and rehashes the plot of the first one, but like you guys, I was entertained. I was gripping my seat at times. The scale of it is amazing. It looks great. I like Denzel. I like Denzel's character. I wish I saw him more. I'm gonna give this a 7. I think it's a good movie. Like, it's good. It's well made. It's just
you can make the argument for a 7, no problem.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that it's got to live up to a 5-time Oscar-winning sword and sandal epic that, even though it came out in 2000, it feels like it came out a longer time ago.
It does.
Like, when I rewatched it, I was like, this came out in 2000. I thought it was a lot older, but it's so timeless and classic that you forget it was 2000. But you got people on fire. You got, in that first one. Also, he does the double sword decapitation, just like Maximus. But I was like, was that necessary? You never saw him do that, or did you? You remember, and you're doing the move, but it was a lot of member berries.
A lot of member berries. Is this movie? Here's a question. 2 questions. Yeah. Two takeaway questions. One. Is this movie the Alien Romulus of the franchise?
I mean, a little bit. Because why did he have to say...
all the member berries.
Why did you have to say, get away from her, you bitch? Ripley has not even uttered those words in that timeline. That doesn't happen for another 20 years. Why is the android saying it? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is this movie that?
A little bit. A little bit, because it's the same shit. He does the same moves.
I don't think it does as much damage.
You think it's better? It's more successful than Alien Romulus?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They both got their positives and negatives, but I don't know. I think they're tied.
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
I feel like Romulus maybe pulls a little too much. Like, he did stuff in that movie from every Alien movie and just shoved it in there.
Right.
Whereas this is just redoing the movie.
First one. Yeah. Right. All right. Here's the other question. I'll phrase it like a sports question, but then ask it real. Sports ball. You caught the sports ball, Imran. Yeah. Has Ridley Scott lost his fastball? AKA, is he not that dude anymore?
He hasn't been that dude in a while.
Yeah.
But you could still see glimpses of it. I mean, he's 86.
He's 86 right
crazy.
now.
I mean, I'm half his age, and I can't even fucking hit the toilet bowl when I piss.
I'm gonna stand.
So, I mean, the fact that he's even
close
close
on my hands to pee now.
The fact that he's even doing anything to this level I'm amazed. Like, it's like when the guy did Fury Road, I was like, I can't believe
George
this guy
Miller is another crazy motherfucker. So I feel like I haven't seen Napoleon, and I think I might watch it. But I feel like this may be one of the better late season Ridley Scott performances.
The best late season Ridley Scott movie, in my opinion, came out 10 years ago.
No, that's not late season. That's the middle of before you get to the end. Which one? Martian?
The Martian. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, that was 10 years ago. So he was 76.
Since The Martian, he's done Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
I don't know. All the Money in the World. I don't know what that is. The Last Duel.
Yeah.
House of Gucci, Napoleon, and now this.
I think House of Gucci is his worst.
So I think you're right. In the last 10 years, I guess, Martian.
The Last Duel, I didn't mind at all. I just thought it was miscast with Ben Affleck.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I think if they weren't in it, it would have been a great movie.
It was an interesting movie telling that same story 3 times from different perspectives, right? But The Martian is, out of the last 10 years, his best movie. And then I would put this Gladiator II after that. So,
oh, wow.
If we were talking late season Ridley Scott.
Late season Ridley.
Yeah. But
what a career.
But he's upcoming. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things in his upcoming IMDb.
What's his next? He's never going to make them all.
He's going to die.
There's something called You Should Be Dancing that's in pre-production. Something called Roads to Freedom that's a TV miniseries. Queen and Country. He's attached to be director in development. The Dog
Queen
Stars.
and Country, is that another period piece type movie?
That's gotta be, right? No, it's about a special ops agent is on the run after assassinating a powerful figure in Eastern Europe.
Oh, interesting.
But so then he has The Dog Stars, Wraiths of Broken Land. You know what else I heard? Denzel, who also said, I'm going to retire after 4 or 5 movies. He just said, I'm going to do Equalizer 4 and 5. Oh, shit. He's going to keep making those movies until he's 86. Which
those older guys, him and Tom Cruise,
they're not giving up.
Not only do not give up, but they fall into doing these action movies, and I'm as the kids would say, I'm all here for it because they're like, these are fun movies, and I'm just going to keep doing these.
Absolutely, at that age, if you could still do this and have fun, like I'm going to watch. I love the old man action. It's a genre. It is a genre unto itself.
Crease,
yeah,
Old Man Karate,
yeah, Martin Cove, all of that.
Crease.
I mean, all of them on Cobra.